Welcome back to another UNC football podcast here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. And if you happen to be watching us on our YouTube channel, that's Tar Heel Illustrated. I'm THI Publisher Andrew Jones, and joining me is our Director of Football Recruiting and Jack of all trades, Ms. Deana King. And Deana, we spoke with Mack Brown earlier today for about 15 minutes after practice. A lot of the focus was on how they adjusted not playing Charlotte over the weekend. Mack learned that the game was going to be canceled, that Charlotte had pulled out during practice on Thursday morning. He notified the team after practice. And by the way, he said it was an excellent practice. The day before, he wasn't too pleased with the Tar Heels practice. So they had to scrap things. They immediately shifted into open week mode, and they did some weight work on Friday. Here they are into open week mode again, because guess what? They don't have a game this weekend. So they're going to go 3 weeks in between games. These are different times. How many times have we actually talked about the fact these are different times, Deana? Crazy stuff.
He was asked if he'd ever had where he went like 2 weeks without a game, excluding bowl game preparation. He said no. So 2020, Andrew, what do you expect? I mean, they've had 3 opponents. They've had 3 teams on their schedule that was Central Florida, Auburn, and now Charlotte. That it's kind of weird.
James Madison and UConn as well.
Yeah. So it's weird because it's almost like play 1 week and let's see what happens the next week. So it is definitely something that we've never seen.
Everybody will be able to see the result of the full Monday I spent just digging, looking at every schedule UNC has had, coming up with some interesting information. And the last time Carolina went 2 weeks in the regular season, like two open dates, 3 weeks in between games, was in 1952. And now what happened then was there was a polio outbreak, and one of the players tested positive, and some of the other students on campus tested positive. And the game, their games against NC State and Georgia were canceled. That's the last time they actually didn't play NC State in the season. They didn't make up those games. So that was what, 68 years ago. So that's a long time ago. Before that, it happened in 1944. Then it happened in 1900. So this doesn't happen very often. It's very rare. And they're only going to have 1 game when they go into October. And the last time they only played 1 game going into October was 1961. And back in those days, the season often didn't start until the 3rd or 4th week in September. So, again, craziness abounds. But the Tar Heels must adapt. They are adapting to the craziness. They are still looking for an opponent. We're going to get into that in a second. But one of the things they're doing this week is they're having full pad practices today, Tuesday, and of course Wednesday and Thursday. Max said that they're going to get a lot of the young ones. He likes to refer to the freshmen and the redshirt freshmen as the young ones. They're going to get a lot of physical work on Thursday. He said earlier today in practice, when they were practicing their inside runs, a lot of the young players were doing that as well. They're trying to get them the reps they would have gotten in the Charlotte game. And you can't replicate game reps in practice, but you can work them as hard as they're working those kids right now. Use the opportunity to kind of get them up to snuff, because they're going to go into a road game and league play against a decent opponent, needing some of these kids to get on the field and help out. And they're going to do so having played just 1 game.
Yeah, that's the most important thing, is trying to build some depth. At certain positions they got depth, but on the offensive line they gotta find a couple more guys that can give them some reps. And I would like to see Jace and Jacoby get some reps, meaningful reps, because Sam, with this COVID and everything, you got to have someone back there that's prepared. And I just think that they need some reps. I mean, the young guys need reps. I mean, Desmond Evans needs reps.
And Max said today he expects Des to play in Chestnut Hill. And I asked him about Josh Azudu. Both Des and Josh Azudu did not play in the opener against Syracuse. Max said that Zudu would not have played against Charlotte. And if they picked up a game for this coming weekend, he likely wouldn't play this weekend either. He's not even doing a lot of the drills. But Mac did say they expect to have Zudu back for Boston College. That will really enhance the depth on the offensive line, not just because Zudu might be their best player and is a starter, but he's also the most versatile. He's gotten plenty of work since camp started at both tackles and both guards. He's one of the starting guards, but he can certainly move around and give guys spells. And it kind of gives them an eighth lineman if you want to throw in Jonathan Adorno, who right now is the backup center. So if those guys show up to Chestnut Hill and they run out of the tunnel and they're in uniform, I think the staff will be okay having 8 guys. They want more, but they'll be okay having 8, given the fact they get Zudu back.
And while we're on the subject of younger guys, Mac, he's thrown Jacarius Conley. He's put him as the nickel guy. So what does that say about Mac's confidence in the true freshman from Jacksonville, that he feels comfortable with him out there? So moving Trey Morrison to the other spot vacant by Miles Woolfolk. So just a lot of talent, that especially young talent, that's going to be very vital for Tar Heels to make this a great season.
Well, look, the secondary was the most loaded position group on the roster when fall camp opened. They're now down 5 guys. They had 3 who opted out, and then Bryson Richardson entered the transfer portal. Now Miles Woolfolk is academically ineligible. But the foresight of Jay Bateman and Mac Brown by moving Trey Morrison around all over the place, really in July, even before technically fall camp started, getting a lot of reps at both corners, at both safety spots, and also being the starting nickel, really pays off now, because he's going to slide into Woolfolk's spot, like you said. Jacarius Conley is going to now start at nickel as a true freshman. He played 23 snaps at nickel against Syracuse. He also was on the field for 22 special teams plays. So the starting nickel against BC, a team that loves to drag that tight end over the middle and loves to run power, is going to be a true freshman with 45 plays on his resume. So even though he's now a starter, getting him practice reps, getting his feel for the game to get up to speed is a very important thing this week and next week as they go into full BC prep.
Well, we noticed a big difference. Mac said Conley is probably one of the best athletes on the team, and he's improved his strength. I hardly recognized him when we seen the video clips and photos during their practice and before the season. So he has impressed me, and I think he's full capable of doing what the coaches want him to do.
Now, they're not playing this weekend, but they do have an open date November 21st, which is 6 days before Notre Dame comes in. That game is the day after Thanksgiving. And Max said today that Rick Steinbacher is actively looking for an opponent for that date. Now, excuse me, I'm going to look down because I got to read, but there are 2 FBS opponents, 2 FBS teams, by the way, that are open that weekend: Florida Atlantic and South Florida. Now, I'm going to read the FCS ones here real quickly. The FCS ones of note that are playing football this year and that are open that weekend, you have Austin Peay, Campbell, the Citadel, Jacksonville State, Chattanooga. You've got Abilene Christian, Houston Baptist, Mercer, Missouri State. And I know Phil Longo would love to hear this. Stephen F. Austin is open that weekend as well. So I think they'll find somebody that they can get to come to Chapel Hill. Max said some people might say, well, God, why do you want to play a game the week before Notre Dame? Use all that extra time to prepare, especially since it would be somewhat of a short week if they indeed played that game on a Saturday, short week before Notre Dame. Mac talked about routine, the routine that coaches need to be in and players need to be in. And you and I have been watching this for years, Deana. I've seen a lot of teams come in off an open date in a big game, and they're too amped up. They're almost, I don't want to say they're too ready to play, but they've got to come down a few pegs, and by the time they do, stuff has happened that puts them in a hole. So, and I'm not saying that that's going to happen or even likely to happen, but it has happened a lot. And I think coaches wanting the routine and just wanting to cruise into stuff, doing the same thing every week and being in full game mode and not losing any of that edge, especially that time of year. That's got to be the thinking behind that?
Well, nobody can know what's going to be happening in November right now. So anything could happen. I mean, UNC could be undefeated rolling into that open week and got a lot of momentum, and then blank, here we got an open date. And then they have to rejuvenate and get pumped up for Notre Dame. I mean, I know I'm not a coach or anything, and open dates come in handy when you're dealing with injuries and everything, but heck, I like just to play. I don't like open dates.
Yeah, I think the preferred open date is this weekend. They would have loved the game Saturday, would have given them an opportunity against a team that could have been competitive with them a little bit, but also a club that they should have handled. So they could have gotten a lot of guys on the field, but also they need to clean up some stuff from the Syracuse game. You know, they needed a cleaner performance from the special teams across the board. They needed a more consistent job by the offensive line moving forward. They needed Conley to get more reps. They needed Miles Murphy to get more reps. They needed a lot of these younger kids to get on the field and get more reps. And now that they don't have Miles Woolfolk, imagine having the opportunity with Conley starting and with Morrison get what would be his first start at safety, getting a game under their belts, getting the communication in hand with those guys out there, that position, that player grouping before going into ACC play. So a lot was lost by not playing that game, but they're going to try to make some of that up later in the year. It gives them an opportunity, again, if they play a game on November 21st, to pick up a needed win, and they might need the win at that time. We have no idea how all this stuff's going to play out as far as, you know, jockeying for bowl games, even the CFP. Who really knows right now how that's going to shape out, especially with the Big Ten getting started so late. So every opportunity that they get to play a game and give kids experience, that's a plus. Every opportunity they get to play a game and pick up a W, that's a plus, especially considering the fact this program hadn't won a lot of games in recent years. So another W is that much better for these guys.
Yeah, and out of those options, you just kind of there's a few that are really close and might make sense, you know, scheduling a team like Campbell or the Citadel. Some of these programs are looking for, you know, they're having budget problems, you know, with no games, and a $500,000 check or $600,000 check, it will come in handy. You know, we've heard Bubba tell that there were some schools that were wanting to play, but they were wanting $1 million, and when there's no fans in the stadium, that's hard to cough up. So you're better off just you know, saving it and trying again later in the year.
Campbell is playing a 4-game schedule this year. They play Georgia Southern this week. Is that
Appalachian,
I'm sorry. Yeah, and then they play Wake on November 7th. They're going to have a long gap between games. They play Wake on November 7th. So obviously giving that program a 5th game, giving a check. I know that coaches love to take care of the in-state schools, so that would certainly be an option. And when we're not talking about any inside information here that hey, they're talking with Campbell about this. I know they do play Campbell in a few years, which caught the attention of a lot of people when that game was scheduled here not too long ago. And then, of course, some of the other options, the bus ride factor. I know Bubba said that he'd like to get a team on a bus ride, but by November 21st, none of that may matter that much. We may be a lot more open everywhere by then than we are now. And some of the discussions going on right now may actually take that into consideration. So, and by the way, Florida Atlantic head coach is Willie Taggart. So everybody wants to know what happened to Willie Taggart, why he landed on the radar and was off the radar so quickly. Well, he's in South Florida, at Florida Atlantic. And South Florida, which has had some decent teams in the past, just got rolled this past weekend by Notre Dame. So I would rather them play an FBS team because it's an FBS team. But those are two clubs there that they should be able to handle and get a lot of the same thing out of playing them as they would an FCS on November 21st. And they'd be able to have a competitive game where they prepare, the kids' minds are in the right place, but also not have a lot of issues the week before Notre Dame comes to town.
Yeah, and just like I said, you know, we're in October. We're getting ready to get. Excuse me. We're getting ready to head.
It feels like October.
My mind's already messed up because I mean, heck, I talked to Caleb Hood the other day, and we should be heading in week 6 of the high school season here in North Carolina. So my mind's all messed up. So we're late September. In November, who knows? They may have let fans in the stadium at Keenan. That would be awesome.
All is forgiven, Miss King. It feels like October out there.
It's hard seeing these stadiums with no fans or scattered fans and stuff.
It sucks. Georgia Tech had a great atmosphere there today because the people that were in the stands were making a lot of noise. And there was band and all that stuff. So I want to see that stuff come back. The sport needs it. I think people that used to not maybe think a whole lot about the importance of band and the cheerleaders and dance team and mascots and all that stuff, that maybe just wanted the football and didn't really think a whole lot about the pageantry, I think they're realizing now how important all that other stuff is to the college football experience as well. She's Deana King. I am Andrew Jones. You've been watching another UNC football podcast right here on TarHillIllustrated.com. Thanks for stopping by.